So this is one of my favorite books of all time. It's called The Big Orange Splot. So you see orange splot on a roof. And sometimes what I like to do when I'm first looking at a cover of a book, I like to make a prediction in my mind about what the book might be about. So maybe if all of us could just take a minute, look at the cover, look at this gentleman in the window and think, what might this story be about? Just in your head.
You made just in time.
All right. So the reason I love this book is because it talks about how if each of us are our very best selves, that we'll be the happiest together. So for me, I really like wearing pink. I really like laughing a lot. I love math. I really like playing basketball. But I also, most of my friends don't like the same things as me. And I love that. Because we can love each other because we're different. Right? And we can love each other because we have things in common. Things that are the same. So this story is all about... Great idea. Can Coconut and you listen to our story? Great. So, The Big Orange Splot. And don't miss Mr. Plumbean's mustache. It was so funny, his mustache.
I'm sure you get a mustache.
You are? Cool. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all the houses were the same. He liked it that way. And so did everybody else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. And then, one day, a seagull flew over Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a bright orange can of paint. Nobody knew why. And he dropped the paint, this is the paint, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. Should we stop there?
No.
It made a big orange splot on Mr. Plumbean's house. Oh, too bad, everybody said. Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house all over again. I suppose I will, said Mr. Plumbean. But he didn't paint his house right away. He looked at the big orange splot for a while. And he thought about it. And then he went about his business, which means he kept doing what he always does. And he didn't paint over it. The neighbors, turn and talk. Do you think that's good or bad? Turn and talk to someone next to you. Find a friend next to you and talk about them. Eris.
You can add more detail. I mean, it's my favorite. Because then I know. I think I've had it. All you do is do this. Yeah, and then put it to the bottom. Guys.
The neighbors got tired of seeing that big orange splot. Someone said, Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get someone around to paint your house. Okay, said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and got some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. And when the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange splot was still there. Then he got even more paint. And he got yellow and red and green and purple. That is the house I would want to go to if I was on that street. Turn and talk to someone next to you. If you were on the street, would you rather go to a neat house or that house?
That house. Yes,
In the morning, the other people on the street came out of their houses. And their houses were all the same. But Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle. It was like an explosion. Yes, ours.
My dad and mom.
Yeah.
They're trying to paint my bedroom.
That is such a great connection. That's a text, what we call a text to self connection. We say it's a text to self connection because you have something in common with the book. It's really exciting. Beckett.
They said paint it up, but they didn't say a certain color.
Yeah, they didn't. They never said paint it back to how it used to be. And there was the Big Orange Splot. And there were little orange splots. And there were stripes. And there were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, Plumbean. So what he's about to say now, these are all synonyms for somebody who turned to be a little wacky. Plumbean has popped his cork. He's flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper. They all went away, whispering and muttering. Not very nice, is it?
Rude.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about each other like that. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools, and that night he built a tower on top of his roof, and on it he painted a clock. Then there's the clock and the tower. The next day the people said, "Ah! Plumbean has gushed his mush! He's lost his marbles and slipped his hawser." They decided they would pretend not to notice. Seems like they could be excited for him, right?
That's hard to do.
That is a hard thing to do, and they should be excited because he's so happy,
Yeah.
right?
That's really nice.
Yeah.
It's not their house. Then we still looked at it. I don't think it's
Turn and talk to someone next to you. Do you think you might like to be friends with Mr. Plumbean?
Yeah.
How come? What do you like about him? Talk to someone next to you.
I think that he's creative. Creative and
And he likes himself. He's like proud of himself. So as I listened around the group, I heard people saying that they would like to be friends with Mr. Plumbean because he likes himself, because he's creative, because he's brave. All of these things, and he's fun. Seems like a pretty interesting character to me. Oh, wait, there's more. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobab trees, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani, which is a type of tree. In the morning, he bought a hammock, and an alligator.
One alligator.
We'll find out.
Those funky trees are those white ones there.
These are the frangipani? Oh, cool, thanks. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in his hammock between two palm trees, and they saw an alligator lying in the grass, and Mr. Plumbean was drinking lemonade.
That's what people do when they're like lying down and drink lemonade.
Relaxing.
No.
Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house? My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams.
But if he moves out of the
Hold on. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. Tell him that we liked it a lot more here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house has to be the same as ours so that we can have our neat street.
Doesn't have to be. Yeah, because maybe
Let's find
all
out.
houses are the same.
The man went to see Mr. Plumbean that evening. They sat under the palm trees, drinking lemonade and talking all night long.
Where does Habit go?
I think it's zoomed in. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber, which is wood, lumber is wood, and rope and nails and paint. And when the people came out of their houses, they saw no longer a neat house, but a big yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. Hold your thoughts. I know we have so many thoughts, and I want to hear all of them. But right now, we're going to have a lot of time after we read to do a really fun activity and talk all about this book. So you don't have to worry that you won't have time to share your thoughts. What have you done to your house? They shouted at the man. My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams, said the man, who had always dreamed of living in a ship. He's just like Plumbean, the people said. He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle. Then, one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbean late at night. They would sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbean's house,
They made a different.
the very next day,
It was a different.
that person would set about changing his own house to fit his dreams.
Down the hall. The Acropolis. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbean and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." And all the people would say, "Our street is us, and we are it. Our street is where we love to be. And so, it looks like all of our dreams." The end. But before you say a peep, we're going to twist our bottoms. And if you see right